Yo, what is up? So in this tutorial, I want to go over just some basic third-person animation stuff. So I'll probably do a couple of videos. In the first one here, we're just going to go over setting up a basic animation blueprint and setting up some blend spaces and importing your character and just getting it in and moving around pretty much. So yeah, let's just hop into it. Alright, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to bring in our character, and I'm going to be using a CC4 character, so my steps here are going to be slightly different if you're not using one, but it'll be mostly the same. So just find your character file, pull this guy in. This is the only thing that'll be different for me right here, so just ignore this step. Alright, so once it's in, you want to just check your settings. Depending on the type of character you have, you may need to tick some other things. Like, I know for CC4 characters specifically, you definitely need to tick, where is it? Import, oh, it's gonna be under this tab right here. Import T0 as ref pose. If you're not using CC4, you may or may not need to do this. It really depends on your character. And I'm also going to import mesh LODs. If you have LODs on your character, definitely tick this guy. Also, if you have morph targets on your character, tick this guy, import morph targets. I'd imagine for the most part, you're probably not going to have LODs or morph targets on your characters unless you're using CC4 or you manually made those. But yeah, after that, just click import. So once it's in, you can just go ahead and save all. And yep, you'll see we have our character in here. So next thing we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and add this into our third-person blueprint here. So go to your mesh here, and I'm just going to find my character. And I'm going to set this as the character, and you can see the arms are wonky because it's, you know, using a different skeleton. It's using a different animation blueprint. We need to make a custom animation blueprint that is assigned to the skeleton of our character. But, you know, if you come in and look, you can see it pretty much works. It's just a little wonky. So just to get rid of that wonkiness, we're going to go ahead and make animation blueprint and Blendspace. So in your character folder, I'm going to make a new folder in here. I'm going to call this animations. And then in here, we're not going to do anything here yet. I'm going to go into the characters folder and go into mannequins. Animations, many, and I'm just going to right click on here, and we're going to retarget some animations here. And right here, I'm just going to find my character that I want to retarget to. You see it pops up here. You can double click on your animations to check that they are working, and we can see that they are. So I'm just gonna highlight all the ones that I need. So I'm gonna get idle, run forward, walk forward, fall loop. I'll grab this idle as well, jump, land, and run forward. And I'm just gonna click export animations down here, go down to characters, CC4 animations, and then we're just gonna export animations. And sometimes this weird thing can happen. All you gotta do to fix this, if this does happen to you, is right here on additive settings. You can go down to mesh space and then just go back to local space. I don't know why, it just kind of bugs out. And that should be fine there. So next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go into our right click right here. We're gonna go into our animations tab right here. We're gonna go down to legacy. We're gonna make a Blendspace 1D. So there's two different kinds of blend spaces. There's Blendspace 1D, and then there's Blendspace. Blendspace 1D is if you only want to go one direction, and Blendspace 1D is if, or Blendspace 1D is if you only want to go in one direction. But Blendspace is if you want to do like a 8-way directional locomotion. So for this first video, we're only gonna do Blendspace 1D. So we'll just go one direction. The video. One of the videos after this, we'll be doing an 8-way directional animation setup as well. But for this one, we're just going to do Blendspace 1D. So we'll click on this guy. You're going to find your skeleton. So I'm going to find my guy right here. And I'm going to name this BS1D underscore custom loco. And I'm gonna open this guy. And the first thing we want to do in here is we want to go to the axis settings. So horizontal axis, that's basically just referencing this horizontal axis right here. And that's the only axis we have since we're using a Blendspace 1D. So I'm going to name this guy speed. So this is going to be, we're going to set our animations to trigger or, blend at what speed we want them to be set up at. So the maximum axis value, this is basically whatever your max walk speed will be. So by default, the third person character is set to 500 for the max walk speed. So we're going to set this guy to 500. And I'm going to bring in my idle. If you pull and drag this in and you hold shift, it'll snap to the different grid points. We're going to go all the way to the beginning for the idle right here. You can see that lands there. And let's see, next we want our walk forward. I'm going to hold shift, snap to the center right here. And then I'm going to grab the run forward, hold shift, and snap to the end down here. And you can see it blends, and we get a blend space. So something else we're going to do is we're going to set up smoothing time. This will basically just control how much it smooths between the animations. So I'm going to set this guy to 0.2. Something else I'm also going to do is go down to wait speed. So if you read this here, it says if greater than 0, this is the speed at which the sample weights are allowed to change. A speed of 1 means a sample weight can change from 0 to 1 or 1 to 0 in 1 second. Speed of 2 means that this would take half a second. So this allows a blend space to switch to new parameters without going through intermediate states, effectively blending between where it was and where the new target is. So yeah, well, I'm going to set this guy to 10. The reason I'm setting it to 10 is by default, if you look in the mannequins, animations, Manny, so if you go into their blend space, actually they have it at 5. I think they used to have it at 10. So we'll set it to 5 then. We'll set this guy to 5 since that's what they set it at. So we'll set that guy to 5. And yeah. The reason I do this is if you set I'll show you an example of this later, because there's a good reason to set this here. It's just going to be hard to show you what that is at the moment until we get our full animation blueprint set up. So let's go ahead and set up our animation blueprint. So we're going to go into our animations folder, go up here to the animation tab, animation blueprint, and select your skeleton and create. And I'm going to call this ABP Clint, since this is the name of my character. Set that guy in there, and we're going to go into the event graph first, and I'm going to go ahead and just delete these. So for the most part, you're never going to have to do this first step from scratch. So I'm not going to do it from scratch, but I will go over what exactly is going on here. So we're going to open up the Manny animation blueprint, and we're just going to copy all of this info here. We're going to go into our Clint one, or our character one, and we're just going to paste that guy in here. And I'm just going to go ahead and create the variables, and then I will just go over what exactly is going on in this blueprint. Just find all your variables here and right click and create variable and compile and save. So from the start here, all that's going on here is off of event blueprint initialize animation. All they're doing is doing a cast to a character and getting the owning actor as the object. So later on, we will be changing some things here in one of the next videos. But for now, all they're doing is getting, character so that they can get the character reference and movement component. And character is different from, you may see people do this a lot in tutorials, cast to third person, cast a BP third person character. So cast a BP third person character is not the same as cast a character. So if you cast a BP third person character, you can get all your custom variables out of here. But with cast to character, all you're going to be able to get are the variables associated with the character the character class. So character class is the parent of BP third person character. So you're only going to have base variables in this. Whenever you do animations later on and you need, like say if you're crouching or something like that, you'll have a crouching variable in your character blueprint, and then you could pull off a third person character and get that variable. But for now, we're not going to worry about this. We'll be going over more of this in one of the next videos. But just so you know, that's kind of why this is here. You're just getting a base information from the default class. So all they do here is they promote character as a variable, and you can see they're not actually they are here. They're seeing if character is valid right here. So they're checking to see if character is valid, and if it is, then it continues to do all this stuff. And then the other thing they're doing is they're grabbing the movement component and just promoting that to a variable, so that they don't have to grab their character in over and over and then get movement component, get character movement like this. So they just went ahead and promoted that as a variable so that you can just drag in character movement or movement component here. And then they got that because they got some other things going on here. So the main variables they set up here is ground speed, should move, and is falling. And these are pretty straightforward. So movement component, you get your velocity, how much are you moving. They promote that velocity to a variable, and they get the vector length x and y, and they promote that to a variable called ground speed. And this is basically just checking how fast your character is moving. That's pretty much all that is doing. So in the next one here, should move, all they do here is they get movement component, get current acceleration, and they're getting current acceleration, and they're getting ground speed. They're checking to see if it's greater than 0, and they're checking to see if current acceleration is not equal to 0. So if all of that is true, then they promote this boolean should move. So basically, this is basically saying, hey, if your current acceleration is not equal to 0, because if it was 0, that means you shouldn't be moving, right? And if your ground speed is above 3, then you should move. And then on this one, all they do is get movement component, check is falling, and then promote that guy to a variable called is falling. And is falling is just a built-in little function built into the engine, so they just snag that variable from there. And then obviously use these variables to control how the anim graph works. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and set up our anim graph. We're going to do this part from scratch just because there's some valuable information in setting this up from scratch for sure. So what we're going to do here is we're going to right click, and we're going to add a state machine. And this first one is going to be loco motion, and we're going to open this guy. And all we're going to do in here is we're going to pull off of entry, and we're going to add state. We're going to call this loco motion, and I'm going to double click on this guy to open it up, and we're going to grab our Blendspace 1D custom loco and plug this guy in. And then we're going to grab our ground speed and just hook that into the speed input right there. And if you compile and save, he is not moving. Let's see why. 1D loco. Preview instance. Oh, it's because we don't have this plugged in. So if you plug that in, you can see he goes into the idle. But we're not done yet. So we're going to pull off of this guy, and we're going to cache. We're going to make a new save cache pose. And basically what a new save cache pose is, it takes all the info from the state machine here, and it just puts it into a easy node where you can use it to do things like blend, add it to other state machines, all kinds of useful stuff. So we're just going to call this loco cache, like that. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to add another state machine, and we're going to call this main states. So from here, we can go ahead and cache this as well, just to save time. We're going to call this main states cache, and then I'm just going to right click and look for cache. We're going to look for well, let's just look for main states. Use cache post main states, and I'm just going to go ahead and plug that guy in right there. You can also go ahead and get a slot right here. We're not going to be doing anything with slots yet, but you can go ahead and put this here because it's useful later on. We'll just leave that as default slot later. Later on, you can, in some instances, you can make some custom slots, but we don't need any of that right now. So main states, we need to set this up. So I'm going to be referencing the way that Unreal Engine sets this up. And the way that they do this is they use something called states, and they use state aliases. So these are state aliases, and these are the states. You can tell the difference by the frame that's around them, the border. And basically, the difference is a state alias is basically just used for transitionary type of information, and then the state itself is used for actual animations and such. So we'll be going over this. So first thing we want to do is we're going to grab our locomotion. We're going to make a state for that. So if we come over here and we add a state, we're going to call this locomotion. And all that's going to be in this state is our locomotion. For some reason, cache loco, use cache pose loco cache. Make sure that's ours. Locomotion, loco cache, yes. So, like I said earlier, we cache this out, and now we can go in here, locomotion, and we are using that cache as our first state. So just compile that, and we can go back from here. So the next thing we want to do is we're going to save this part right here for last. The next thing we want to do is we want to go into our fall loop and jumping, all of this stuff. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make this to falling state alias. So we're going to right click here. We're going to add a state alias, and this is going to be to falling. And so just so you understand kind of how this works, let me just show you from here. Every time you add a state, so these states that are all in here, you click on this state alias, you can see a list of them here. So if you look over here on our custom one, right now we only have locomotion because that's the only state that we have in here. But as we add more, the state alias will update and you will have these. So as you can see right here on they're to falling, they have locomotion and land checked, but we don't have land yet. So all we're going to do right now is we're going to check our locomotion. And basically what a state alias does, like I said, is for transitions. So we're going to use this as a transitionary point. So basically this is basically just saying at what point do you want to use this alias? Is it a transition from locomotion, or is it a transition from landing? Yeah, you just tick at what point is it allowed to use this, like during which states can it transition. So you can see here we have locomotion and land, and right here they have jump and fall loop. So to land, you can go to the land animation from jump and fall loop. So that's it's kind of confusing, but hopefully that makes sense to you. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to add a state called jump. So we're going to pull off this guy. We're going to add a state called jump. And first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up our transition to what allows us to go to jumping. So we're going to look in theirs, and that did not open. Let me open this guy back. So all they're doing is they're checking to see that the Z velocity is greater than 100, and they're checking to see if you are falling. So I'm just going to copy this, but that's that's all you need to be able to be allowed to jump. So we're just going to plug this guy in and compile that. So now we can go into a jump, but we need to set up our jump animation. So open this guy up. I'm going to grab our jump and pull this guy in and compile that. So now we should be able to jump. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add another state, and this is going to be our fall loop. And so the transition for this one is going to be a little bit differently. So as you can see here, if you double click this, there's nothing in theirs. And the reason for that is if you click on it and you look over here, they use this setting over here, automatic rule based on sequence, player, and state. So basically what that means is it'll automatically transition. You may have seen people in the past, check the time remaining and some other time remaining jump, and then see if it's less than or equal to like 0.1. People do that in a lot of animation tutorials. So basically this automatically does that for you, so you don't have to do that. So that's what we're going to do in ours. We're going to come over here and we're just going to click on our transition rule, and we're going to click automatic rule based on sequence. And now that is set up. Now we just need to set up our fall loop. So grab our fall loop in right here. And we're going to, for fall loop, it is a looping animation. So we definitely want to come down here and tick loop animation. And then last thing we want to do is we want to connect this over here, as you can see, to landing to fall loop. And the transition rule here is you just want to make sure you're falling to go into the fall loop. So we're just going to open this guy up, pull this guy in, and that is pretty much it. So something else that's important with using these state aliases and these transition is the priority order. So if you look right here, right now, all of our priorities are set to 1. We don't want it like that. If you look at theirs, they have this one to 1, this one to 1, and this one to 2. So basically, the lower the number, the higher it's going to sit on the hierarchy of what it will look at first. So these are 1, so it's going to look at these before it looks at this one that has a priority of 2. So all we need to do is change this guy right here to priority order 2. And that is good to go. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and set up our landing state alias and state here. So right here, we're going to right click. We're going to add state alias called to landing. And so you can see on here on their to landing, they have jump and fall loop as the transitionary points that are allowed. So we can go ahead and tick that. Jump and fall loop. So we're going to go ahead and add another state, and this is going to be called land. And in their land, they have a transitionary rule. They're just checking to make sure that you're not falling. So we're just going to copy that guy. And I'm going to paste this into here. And then we're going to go into our land animation. So they do this one a little bit different as well. So if you go into the land state, you can see they apply additive, and they're using they're adding an additive of the locomotion and the landing animation. And if you look here, Control Alt, you can just read to see kind of what it does. It applies the supplied additive pose blended by the alpha parameter. So the alpha parameter here will basically control how much of an additive is added. And the way you could think about it is, it kind of like, it's additive. It adds these two animations together, kind of. So if you set this to 0, it won't do it at all. But if it's at 1, that'll be fully added. So just a quick little rundown of what's going on there. I'm just going to go ahead and copy this and go into our land here. So we do want to change this animation here because that's not ours. That's the Manny one. So we're going to grab in our land animation here, pull this guy in. And next thing we want to do is we're just going to plug our land into locomotion. Just plug that guy in here. And if you see here, this one's a little different as well because they have 2 of these going in. So all you got to do to get 2 is you just pull it in there twice and you get these 2 right next to each other. And we can see the left one is, we're just checking to see if we should be moving. So let's go over here to ours and plug in our should move. And then the other one, if you look at their other one, open it up, you can see it's not there, which means they are using this automatic rule based on sequence. So we're just going to tick that guy. And if you check the priorities of these, I don't believe any of these have any that are not 1. Yeah, so the priorities, all of these are just set to 1. So that should be fine. And the last thing we got to do is, earlier we didn't have our transition area from land from our 2 falling, so we're just going to click on this guy and tick that land right there. So you remember earlier we were looking at this and we didn't have that state yet. So now we have it, we can tick it, and that should be good. Where's it giving us an error? Let's see. Oh, locomotion. Let's use our loco cache. That's the Unreal Engine cache. We need to use our cache right here. Yep. So that should be good to go. Let's just go ahead and test it, make sure everything is good. So let's go into our third-person blueprint, open this guy up, and all we need to do is click on our mesh and change out the animation blueprint. I'm going to choose ABP Clint, which is the one I just made. And we can test it, and we can see it works. And one last thing that I wanted to show you, earlier I mentioned the weight speed, and the main thing I've noticed from changing weight speed on the Blendspace. So if I go into the Blendspace and say right now we have weight speed set to 5, let's set that back to 0. And I'm gonna run into a wall. And I've noticed in the past this can kind of change the, you can kind of see a bit of a harsher snapping with the weight speed being different in scenarios like this. So set this to 10 right now, and yeah, you can see it kind of softens some of that a little bit. But we're just gonna set that back to 5 because that's what they have it at. And we could just do a save all. Looks like we're good. And yep, that's gonna be it for this one. So if you liked the video, hit the like button. If you're new around here, definitely subscribe. If you have any suggestions for any other tutorials you would like to see, let me know those down in the comments. The next video will probably go into adding crouching, and then that one should be pretty easy, pretty simple, just adding some crouching animations. And then the one after that, we will be adding we'll be doing the 8-way directional animation blend spaces. So we'll do a 8-way directional animations, and then we'll add an 8-way directional crouching animations as well. So yep, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.